you so much for joining us today for Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. We have USA Today bestselling author Mary Lancaster and Abigail Bridges with us today, and they both have brand new series launching this week. So I'm excited to hear all about the books and all about the series. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Mary, your book came out first on Tuesday, and it's Unmasking the Hero from the Pleasure Garden series. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it's a new series set in the Regency period, set in a pleasure garden because that's the name of the series. It's a fictional place, but it's based on things like the gardens like Vauxhall and Ranelagh, which you often come across in Regency stuff. They weren't fashionable by the Regency period anymore, and they were a bit sort of sleazy and run down, which I thought was quite a nice idea for a setting. So I have my ideas that my characters, who are mostly members of the Ton, they're very upper crust. So they go there heavily masked because they don't want to be recognised. And in fact, there are masked balls there, public masked balls every week. So this gives plenty of opportunity for misunderstandings and misidentification. And so that's the basis of the series. It's also the idea, I think, of the mask, because I suppose we all wear a mask to some degree when we're meeting strangers, but my characters have more secrets than most, so they have a lot to have uncovered, as it were. So, and my first book, Unmasking the Hero, my heroine is a countess who's been recently married. Well, she's been married for 2 years, in fact, but her husband shabbed off after the wedding night over, well, you're never quite sure until as we go on why he was so upset, but he left her on her wedding night, leaving her to face a bit of humiliation when she went back, and people assuming that she's guilty of something for her husband to have left her so soon. So she's got all that to deal with, and while she's waiting for her husband to come home, she's sort of plotting vague revenge. And then one day she goes to the pleasure garden and meets this strange masked man, and she thinks he might be the answer to her revenge problems. So he might not be, though. So that's basically the basis of it. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but that's the fun bits behind it.
So how do the series connect to each other? Is it connected through a family, or is it connected through the pleasure gardens, or is there some overlap between the characters between this book and the later books in the series?
There will be some overlap. There's some of the characters you'll meet earlier on. In fact, there's even some characters from different series who crop up, but you have to look out for them. But yeah, there will be some overlap between the characters, but the pleasure garden itself is the main connection between them. They meet there at some point, and it usually comes into the story progressively. Even the people who live and work there, as well as the characters who visit there.
So I don't know very much about the pleasure gardens. I know that there were like magicians and shows and things like that, and people on stilts. Can you tell us a little bit about what they were like?
During the day, I think they had things like that. They had they would have musical concerts, and jugglers and magicians, as you say, and lots of entertainment, things that would appeal to people just wandering around the gardens. And then in the evening, I think there was a lot of music and dancing and things like that. But because mine's fictional, I can just have what happened there, whatever I like. So that's the beauty of fiction, as long as it's believable.
Did you have to do any research for this series?
Well, yeah, I looked into the sort of things that went on at Vauxhall and Ranelagh, and tried to make my garden similar, although on a smaller scale. So yeah. And otherwise, it's just the normal Regency costumes and customs, which I sometimes get a wee bit left behind in historical romances. But you have to bear in mind when you are as well as where you are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love the tagline for this book. He's the source of all my hate and of my love. It sets everything up so that you know that there's going to be a great deal of conflict between the two main characters.
Yeah, well, she can never quite bring herself to be unfaithful to him because secretly she still loves him, but sometimes she doesn't really know why. So, and she's determined to tell him off.
Well, he left on their wedding night. I mean,
well, exactly. I mean, you can't do that.
You better have a really good reason there. No, Abigail, you were saying that you wanted to murder him when you started reading the prologue.
Yeah, I wanted to kill him by the end of the prologue.
Well, I hope he endears himself to you a wee bit more later on.
Well, you just gotta assume that eventually there's going to be something redeeming because there has to be some reason that she loves him and sticks with him through the book. So,
yeah, I hope so.
Well, one of the things I found charming about the opening is that the first paragraph just endears you to him. I mean, he in that very first paragraph, you do such a great job of introducing his character just in that first paragraph, and then. Like a page and a half later, you're like, I'm going to kill him. So it's like you're already a little in love with him by the end of the first page. And so it's like, and so that's when I recognize, this is going to be a really engaging book because you can make me love him almost immediately. And then really, really frustrated with him a page and a half later. And so you've done a very good job of engaging the reader and playing with our emotions. And I'm like, oh, I can't put this down. I have work to do. I have stuff I've got to get done. I should not have started this book.
Well, thank you so much for that. It means a lot.
2 days later, I'm almost halfway through it. And I'm like, I've got stuff to do. I'm actually on another deadline. And I'm like,
Yes, it can be annoying.
Those are the best ones when you can't put them down.
Yeah.
So, Abigail, your book came out yesterday.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Stop a Scoundrel. And I want to know about the Scoundrel then. And it's the Ashton Park series, the first book in the Ashton Park series.
Oh yes. Well, the Scoundrel is a twist because the scoundrel you think the title refers to is not the scoundrel the title refers to. You don't find that out until later in the book. What the scoundrel she wants to stop, I guess I'm spoiling it a little bit, but she wants to stop all scoundrels from preying on women.
Which is a very noble... Oh.
Yeah, Rose is a spinster. She's been on the shelf for a while. She's very pragmatic. She knows that people marry in the Regency period for title or lineage or money or status or whatever. She doesn't have a problem with women who choose to marry a title or choose to marry a man. But the point is, there are many, many scoundrels and rakes out there who prey on innocent women who ruin them in order to marry them, and who deceive them, who try to make them think they're in love. And when the truth is, the men don't really love them. They just want their dowry or their title or their connections. And that's what she objects to. She even tells her sister, you want to choose a title and follow mother and daddy's dictates, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but make sure it's what you want. And she had a friend who was ruined and is now stuck in a marriage that's just misery on a daily basis. And her goal is to stop that from happening to anybody else. And so because she has taken over the running of her household from her mother, I don't know where I came up with this description, but her relationship with her mother is, quote unquote, starched. And her mother would much rather go to teas and pay calls and spend her time with her needlepoint than run her house. So Rose, with this dream that she might eventually have her own household, took over the running of the house. So this put her in touch with the servants and the vendors. And so she's developed this information network of gossip.
Oh, wow.
And so they bring her information, and she sends out messages, and she's like, my friend Anne is dating Lord Ramsbury. He's been in Paris for 2 years. Tell me, anybody out there got any information on Ramsbury? And so then it comes back, and then she feeds it. So she's got this network, and a lot of the rakes and nobles are a little afraid of her, because it's like, if she gets this information, she's no longer afraid because she is on the shelf. Mm-hmm. She doesn't mind courting ruin for herself. So she'll do things like dump lemonade on them to keep them from going out on a terrace with a innocent young girl. She'll just walk up to him and go, oops. And so into this comes Thomas, that she'd had a long infatuation with from the time they were both children. And he and his brothers have courted ruin on purpose. They hate society, but they are sons of a duke who is one of the more powerful men in England. And so Daddy at some point says, come back, toe the line, get yourself in order. Your heirs, I'm tired of this. We gave you your reign so that you could figure yourselves out, but we're done. Thomas is 30. And the two brothers are Robert, who's 28, and Michael, who's 24. And then there's a sister who's in her first season. So all of this comes together, and they have to regain their reputation. So Thomas and Rose make a bargain. She'll help him regain his reputation, and he'll help her bring down her big fish. So that's the bargain they strike. And the whole idea is that Rose was attacked. The reason she's never married is that she was attacked when she was much younger. And the attack left her incapable of having children. So Thomas needs an heir. So Rose knows Thomas needs an heir. So she's constantly pushing him away. And he understands what's going on, but he's like, one of the secondary characters in the book, I love Rose and Thomas, don't get me wrong, but one of the secondary characters is Robert, the younger brother, and Robert is a hoot. And Robert is instrumental in this plot, and then he gets his turn in the next book.
So the series follows the family then?
The series follows the family. Ashton Park is the country estate of the Duke of Kennett. And so the three boys, Thomas, Robert, and Michael, and then the sister Beth. And the four books are not chronological. They're simultaneous in that they all take place in 1825. So as the stories, it's sort of toward the end of the Regency, but the stories are interwoven. So Thomas's story is from April to October with an epilogue in March. And Robert's story is from July through Christmas.
Oh, cool. So nice overlap.
And then Michael's story is from late summer, like August, through Christmas in the next spring. And so Christmas plays a huge part of this. The Kennetts at Ashton Park always have a big house party at Christmas. They have a big Christmas ball, and everybody comes. And so there's this these interwoven stories eventually wind up with Christmas, except for the first book. The first book it skips Christmas, and it goes from October to March with the epilogue. But they're all happily ever afters, and I can't do, one of the reasons that I've found myself coming back to historical romance after all these years is that I love the happily ever after. I really crave that. It's like, give me that coming together, that warm, happy feeling of two people who are in love.
That promise, especially now, I think is really important. because
Yeah.
it's it's. I want to give you my time. I want to give you my attention, but I want to know that at the end,
Yes, it's going to
that I'm
be.
not going to want to run him over with a car anymore.
Yes, exactly. There was a
Some
best-selling
redemption.
book that became a top movie, and it got all these praises. And I will be the first to admit that this book was exceptionally well written, fabulously well written. But I got to the end of the book, and I threw the book against the wall, and I screamed, and I swore I would never read this author again. And it was all because I hated the ending so much. And the ending was logical. It came completely out of the story. The author didn't pull any strange twist on you. It was completely out of the story, and I hated it. and part of it was like, I wanted them to salvage that happy ending.
Yeah, we want the promise of the happy ending, especially now. I think, especially when things are challenging. I think it's even more important to know that you can count on that coming around eventually and getting to the happily ending. So we talked a little bit about where you guys were before we went live. Mary, you're in Scotland, and Abigail, you're in Alabama. So Scotland's getting ready to host the climate change summit. Is that right?
Yeah, in Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Cool. So we're just starting to get to be fall. I mean, fall is optimistic, but it was not hot this morning in Virginia. So I settled for like the first day that it was not hot in a long time. So what's the weather like where you are now? What's going on where you are?
Well, we've had a pretty warm summer for Scotland. It's a bit grey today, but it's still not cold. Well, not for us anyway. I think it's about 15 degrees, which is actually a normal summer day here. But we've had it up in the 20s recently, and we've been a bit spoiled for that.
I think that your scale and Abigail's scale of not hot might be off.
I think we're completely different there. We've been trapped in this for so long because we can't go. Normally, most people certainly in Scotland, we head abroad as quick as we can to get some sunshine. But we can't do that just now, most of us. So we're sort of trapped. So whenever we see the sun this summer, it's been wonderful.
Right. So we're getting ready for cooler weather. And Abigail, you had said that your books took place over Christmas time. Was there anything interesting you learned about Christmas kind of rituals or things when you were doing research for your book?
Actually, there was, and it was. I put some of that into play. Star of Wonder, the holidays collection that's coming out.
Mary, are you in Star of Wonder or Star of Light?
Who?
Are you doing the holiday collection too?
Yes, I'm in Star of Light. I am.
Star of Light.
Star of Light.
So Star of Wonder for Abigail and Star of Light for Mary.
Yeah, another reason for me to buy the other book. The novella that I sent in for Star of Wonder is a prequel to the series about the Duke and the Duchess, Philip and Emlyn. And because it takes place around Christmas, I did a lot of research. This is probably more than you want to know. I was in the Society for Creative Anachronism for years. And so I did a lot of research in the Middle Ages during that time. And because my character, my persona was set quite early. And I didn't realize how toward the end of the Georgian period, during the Regency, there was this scaling back on Christmas, because in the Middle Ages, Christmas in some ways was a big deal, but it was, from one of the tidbits that I found out, for instance, is that everybody thinks that Christmas trees did not occur in England until after Victoria and Albert brought that tradition over. That's not entirely true. They made it popular. They made it trendy. But trees were already being used as decorations much earlier, but just rarely. And there was this whole trend during especially the early Regency to refine Christmas and make it dignified. So all of the decorations that had been used before, all the 12th night stuff, that all started going away for these low-key dinner parties and low-key decorations. And so one of the things that I did for the novella was to give a little bit more of the backstory, in that Philip, who in the novella is Lord Newberry, that's the marquee title, his mother was German. And so she had already brought some of her own traditions over for their stuff. And so they kept some of the traditions, but he makes this comment that during the Regency period, bringing evergreens and the evergreen decorations into the house prior to Christmas Eve was considered bad luck. And his comment to his Emmeline is, my mother was raised to believe in making her own luck. And which is more of a German thought. Mm. It's like, you don't depend on, you make your own. Yeah. And so she would bring them in the day before so that she could get them set up for the ball, which is Christmas Eve.
And because they smell good.
And because they smell good. But they kept the tradition of burning them on 12th night. There's the 12th night tradition is you burn all the evergreens and you do the wassailing. Wassailing has a huge tradition background, but it varies depending on where you are. And some people wassailing would entail going through. It's a big charity event, also a big drunken party. And so the houses would open the kitchens and the poor people could come in and get food, but they would go through the neighborhood singing. And then they would take huge parties out into the woods to wake up the trees by pouring cider on them and putting fruitcakes in the branches. And
probably the best place for fruitcakes to go, you know.
Hey, now I like a good fruitcake. There is a monastery in Kentucky at Bardstown, Gethsemane, and they make some of their money through the year by selling fruitcake, fudge, jam, and I don't think they make cheese, but it's mostly fruitcake. And the fruitcakes tend to be soaked in brandy.
I was going to say they're the ones that soak them in booze.
They are so good. You know, you get one, you slice it, you put a little butter on it, you toast it. So,
Mary, is your Christmas novella connected? I know you have several series with Dragonblade. Is it connected to one of the other series, or this series, or?
It's actually connected to the Crime of Passion series.
That was the series right before this one.
Yeah, it's the Victorian murder series. So so in that one, my heroine is actually alone, and she thinks she's going to be alone all over Christmas because her husband's travelled up to Edinburgh, and he seems to be trapped there by the snow, and she doesn't think he'll get back in time. And meanwhile, somebody gets murdered on her front doorstep, so she has to sort that out before he comes home.
She's not the Christmas present you want.
Not really, but it does make it more interesting, doesn't it? So she's not bored.
And what is the title of that again?
I can't remember now. I called it Merry Lover, because he had a smile on his face even though he was dead.
But it's Star of Light, which
Star of Light. Yeah,
we absolutely need both the Star of Wonder and Star of Light collections, and they're both on sale. It's like all of these books by your favorite authors for really like 99 cents. It's the best deal around. It's the very best deal.
And I looked at the list of authors in both of these, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know they're like give me hands for both of them, because they're just such great collections. Are either of you participating in the Halloween collection, the Midnight Jury?
Yeah, I've got one in there.
So Ghost Story.
Yes, yeah, lots of ghosts in mine. It's based on a castle sort of in the middle of Scotland near Stirling. Uh, do you know what it's named? Alloa. The Alloa Tower is called, but I've called it Ochil Tower in my book just to make it slightly different. And yeah, so there's lots of ghosts there, and the owner is quite worried because he thinks there's something wrong. So he hears somebody talking to ghosts, and he thinks she's the person I need to find out what's wrong with my ghosts. So because he can't talk to them, so he gets her down to talk to his ghosts.
Like a ghost party line, you know.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So that's the general idea, anyway.
No, that's part of the Halloween collection, which is also a great deal and coming out just at the perfect time for ghost stories. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too.
We have somebody interested in fruitcake this year.
I saw that. It's like, yes.
Not for the trees, just for the eating part. Ladies, we're almost out of time. Can you tell me a little bit about your writing process and where you like to write, what what your days look like? Anything you think would be something that readers wouldn't necessarily know about you? Or you can tell me if you'd rather have brownies or lemon tarts, whichever.
Both.
I know, it's like, why does that have to be a choice?
Oh, and here I was thinking strawberry shortcake.
Yeah, that'd be too. Yep.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, one of the reasons I like fall, and I can't wait to get the Halloween collection, is my favorite writing place is on my patio with my laptop, because she kind of shuts everything else out. But here, it gets so hot and muggy in the summer, I can't get out there. It's like I walk to the mailbox and I break out in a sweat. And so I am so looking forward to fall. And I am on a couple of deadlines right now. And I have a great desk set up. I mean, my background is trash, but the desk itself is a delight to work at, and have a brand new computer, the whole thing. But I would just prefer to take my laptop and sit outside with the trees and the birds and, the lawnmowers and the.
I was working on ads outside this morning with the hummingbirds chasing each other around on the patio. And it was so nice to be outside and to have it not be hot for a change.
Yeah.
Where do you like to work?
Well, I usually did work in I've got a room now since one of my sons left home. I've got his old room, so I've got all my stuff in there at last. Normally, I used to just float about from room to room with my laptop, just write when I could. But now I've got a proper room, so I feel like a proper writer.
There you go. An actual office kind of space and everything.
A proper writer. That when I opened your book, I'm scrolling through the pages of previously published books by Mary Lancaster going, I got some catching up to do.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah, just a few. Well, and if they're all as good as this one, I'm going to be diving in. I'm hoping as soon as I can get through it, I'm going to be on BookBub writing a review. So
thank you so much. I have to say I love this under yours as well. For some reason I missed it when it came out, but I shall just out this week. Yeah. So
it came out yesterday.
Yesterday. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go and have a look at it because it sounds really fun.
Yeah, and I was telling Alexa had bumped me because I had missed a pre-order on one of the pre-order lists. I'll pop the pre-order list up in our Facebook group after we get off the chat. But Dragonblade authors are so prolific that there's always something. There's always something new to read. There's always something new to read.
There was one of the a bunch of free stuff came up, and I'm like busily downloading on my Kindle, and I realized I'm never going to read. When am I going to have time? But and there's just so much from Dragonblade. I will add that being new to Dragonblade has been very intriguing to me because I've worked with so many publishers in the past. And you guys have a different model of doing things than what I'm used to. And I'm just getting this pen name up and running. And I have had more than one person call me and go, what is it like to write for Dragonblade? And I went, if you can get your foot in that door, go for it, because this is one of the best publishing experiences I've ever had.
It's a very author-focused company.
It is.
It's very easy to put your energy behind because it is a very author-focused company.
I'm constantly going, I'm not doing enough. I'm watching Alexa, and I'm watching Mary, and I'm watching these other, authors, and I'm going, I got to do that. I got to do this. And I got deadlines. Stop it. But I will tell you, I looked at To Stop a King Scoundrel this morning, and yes, authors are addicted to their Amazon rankings. I don't care what anybody says. And I know they're not a really good indication, but you still go. Mm-hmm. And I've had the best Amazon rankings I've had with any book launch in my career. And I am just astonished. And
well, the package for your book is really good. The cover and the blurb are really interesting. It was easy to set ads up for that one.
Yeah. And so it's been, I'm hoping that people, and yes, I've seen the people who posted that they purchased it. Thank you. And I'm hoping that the first one will generate interest in the others. I certainly know that Mary's book has generated interest in the rest of her series for me. So
that's nice to know.
It's the beauty of series, and one of the most exciting things about starting 2 new series this week is, like, when you start to fall in love with the characters and it's part of a series, then I can fall the whole way in love because I'm going to see them again. They're going to show up again in later books, and I get to stay attached to them in ways that you don't when it's a one-off or not an interconnected one. So that's very exciting to me. I love series as a reader very much.
It's the same with writing them, actually. I think it's nice going back to characters that you've got really fond of, and you don't really want to leave them.
And then you get to see when they have babies and do all that other kind of stuff too.
Yeah. And the fun part about being a writer and Mary will know this, having a writer's brain can be kind of startling at times. And as I started writing Robert's story, he told me something that had happened to him when he was a teenager. I didn't plan, didn't know, but when I went back and read some of his scenes in To Stop a Scoundrel, I had foreshadowed them.
That's lovely when it works that way.
When I was going through the final edit, I just tweaked those scenes a little bit, but what is revealed about him in the second book is pretty much foreshadowed. And of all my beta readers, I've only had one who pegged it. And so I'm hoping it's a delight. It's not, I hope it's a twist that will surprise readers. So,
and not a murder on the doorstep.
Not a murder on the doorstep.
Nothing wrong with the odd murder in the doorstep.
You need him every once in a while. Some people just need it.
As an editor, I sometimes tell writers they'll write themselves into a hole, and I'll say, well, kill somebody. And they're like, what? And it's like, kill somebody. It's
the only place you can do it and not get in trouble for it.
And it was like, yes.
No pesky moral issues. No.
I used to have one of those Facebook memes that says I write because I don't look good in orange jumpsuits.
Ladies, this was such a delight. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to pop the links for both of the books in the comments for the chat in case you haven't had a chance to grab them yet. You want them for sure. And then we also have a sale going on for some of the Dragonblade authors that have participated in a free promo. And so I'll make sure I put a post in our readers group about that today as well, so you guys can pick up extra books. But thank you so much for taking your time to spend Friday afternoon with us, and we will see you again next week. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.